Do you talk yourself out of doing things you know are actually your goals and dreams? Do you say things such as, you're not smart enough, you shouldn't try, or you're not capable? What if someone told you that this negative self-talk could be actually costing you your health and your life? Welcome to the What's Eating You podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm a psychologist, published author, and public speaker here to educate and validate. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to today's episode on the What is Eating You podcast. I'm your host and clinical psychologist, Stephanie Giorgio. And today we're going to unpack negative self-talk because I don't care who you are or where you are from, we all struggle with it. And once you actually know how bad it is for you, I think you're going to rethink it the next time it creeps up on you. Even if you think you don't have negative self-talk, you probably do. Many people are just unaware of their thoughts. Now, before we get into today's episode, I wanted to mention that we have 34,000 downloads and only 58 ratings. So if you're listening to this and you haven't left a rating, please do. This really helps the podcast reach more ears and create more of an impact. And if you've already left a review, I am extremely grateful. Today's question came from a viewer on my Instagram who submitted a question in my Psychology Sunday box. So every Sunday, I put a post on my story saying, Psychology Sunday, ask a question. And basically what they'd asked is, why do we talk ourselves out of our dreams? For example, saying, I'm not smart enough. So this episode will cover, why do we talk ourselves out of things we know are good for us? And how to stop doing this, how to stop negative self-talk such as, I'm not smart enough, and actually go for what it is you want in life. I want you to know you're not alone. We have about 70,000 thoughts a day, and can you guess what portion of them are negative? It's estimated that 60% of thoughts you have during the day are negative. Don't believe me? Just do a thought audit. Audit your thoughts for 24 hours and write them down. Your thoughts when you're having breakfast, your thoughts when you're at the gym, your thoughts when you're coming home from work, your thoughts when you're in a meeting at work. What do you actually think about yourself? Are you waking up thinking, oh, I'm so tired, I slept in, I thought I was going to wake up earlier, I promised myself that I would go off when my alarm went off and I didn't do it, I can't stick to anything. That's literally over 10 thoughts in less than a minute. What about when you went to the gym? Were you thinking, I look so fat doing this exercise, ew, I look disgusting, why is every other person so put together? Why am I struggling to breathe? Am I that unfit? You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, Steph, I do have negative thoughts. What about when you just went for a walk to get your morning coffee? Oh my gosh, the barista thinks I'm nuts because I couldn't remember my order when he asked my name. I mumbled it, or I stumbled, or I said the wrong thing. What is negative self-talk? Negative self-talk refers to your inner voice that is often critical, negative, or punishing. These are pessimistic, mean-spirited, or unfairly critical comments that go through your head when you're making judgments about yourself. Now, we all have an inner critic. Now, we call this the demanding or critical part in schema therapy. So it helps to label it as a part rather than it's me. So from now on, I want you to label this part of your brain as the critical part. You can even give it a name. You can call it critical cat. You can call it Betty, you can call it Rain, whatever you want. At times, the little voice can be helpful and keep us motivated, like when it reminds us about submitting our assignment on time. But this voice is often more harmful than helpful, especially when it's very negative and it can bring us down. So what are some examples? There's actually 5 types of negative self-talk, and see which ones you can relate to. In fact, grab a pen and paper and write this down because you're going to want to identify it. It can sound like this. Grounded. I'm not good at this. I should even avoid trying because what's the point if I'm not good at it? Mean. I can never do anything right. Hopeless. I don't deserve to be happy. I'll never find love. Apathetic. I'll fail anyway, so what's the point in trying? and defeated. That looks really hard. Even if I tried, I'd never be able to do it. Now, some people might be saying, yeah, but Steph, these thoughts are true. I'm not smart. I got a C on my test, or I didn't even get my enter score. I'm not good at maths. But what happens is people then appraise these thoughts to mean something about themselves. So just because you got a C on your test, you conclude, I'll never be able to go to college. I'll never be able to get the job of my dreams. So that's the problem. The problem is the meaning we give to negative thoughts. It's similar to OCD when people think, oh my gosh, I had an intrusive thought that I'm going to push my mother-in-law in front of a bus. They think I'm such a horrible person. Why would I think that? It's the appraisal. Appraisal means meaning. It's the meaning you're giving to thoughts. Whereas if you gave your thoughts no meaning, it would stop there, right? So for example, you ate a chocolate cake when you were trying not to eat chocolate cake. I have no control. What's the meaning of this thought? I'm a failure. See? So basically, negative self-talk is any inner dialogue you have with yourself that may be limiting your ability to believe in yourself and your own abilities to reach your potential. It's any thought that really stops you from making any positive changes in your life, and it affects your confidence. But why do we have it? This person who asked, why? Why do I have this? It's taking me away from my dreams. I think I'm not smart enough. Why? Only you can answer that. And I encourage you to think back. When did this thought develop? Why do I think I'm not smart enough? When did I first start thinking I'm not smart enough? Was it because a teacher told me I'm not smart enough? Was it because my mum growing up said, oh, you never concentrate, you need to apply yourself? Many people with ADHD have this internalized thought because they were often told this messaging as a child. You are a blank slate. You're not born with negative thoughts. Your experiences and your upbringing and the meaning you assign to situations is what dictates your inner dialogue. So what I encourage you to do to figure out why do we talk ourselves out of things is ask yourself, why do I tell myself I'm not smart? Where is the evidence I'm not smart? So actually take a step back and analyze it. Rather than being in the thought, take a step back and say, okay, let's get curious. Why did this thought come up? Do I actually need to be smart enough for what I'm trying to achieve? Is that the truth? The biggest problem is people just fall victim to their thoughts. They think, oh, I'm having a thought, therefore it must be real, it must be a fact. But you're allowed to question your own thoughts, right? If someone said to you, hey, go downstairs, someone's giving away $1,000 or giving away $100 bills, would you say, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to go downstairs now? You'd probably question it. What do you mean? Who is it? Why are they giving it away? You are allowed to question your own negative beliefs because often they're not true. As mentioned, they come from other people in your life. They come from societal expectations or messages. They come from fear and safety. Is telling yourself you're not smart enough actually serving a function? Does it stop you from trying, which means you're never going to fail and you're never going to be disappointed? People have this huge fear of failure, whereas I have a fear of never trying. I actually don't care if I try and I fail because I can be like, it didn't work, so what? Versus, oh my gosh, I've had 10 years and I didn't even try. That scares me more than failure, but not everyone's like that. So essentially, we're going to uncover how you can beat this. So we know the types of negative self-talk, and we know that the first thing you want to do is you want to try and call it out. You want to become aware of it. You want to say, oh, there's my critical Kelly coming out. And also, I want you to know the consequences because you're not going to believe this. Negative self-talk affects you in some real damaging ways. People who have negative self-talk have a higher risk of mental health problems. Researchers found that excessive rumination, which is thinking and going over the same thing, increases your risk of depression, generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychosis, obsessive compulsive disorder, and social anxiety disorder. Why is this? Because thoughts control how you feel. all right? If you walk into a room and you think everyone's looking at me, no one likes me, I look ugly, I look stupid, you're going to feel sad, upset, hopeless. When you feel sad and upset and hopeless, you're not going to leave your house. You're probably going to binge eat. You're not going to be social. And that's going to affect your functioning and your mood. Focusing on negative thoughts leads to decreased motivation and greater feelings of helplessness. This type of critical inner dialogue has been linked to depression. So it's so important that you address this. If you speak negative to yourself, I wouldn't fix anything else in your life. I wouldn't go on a diet. I wouldn't try fix your face. I wouldn't try fix your body. I wouldn't do anything. That's the problem. People think I need to fix myself externally to fix myself internally. But unless you have the internal infrastructure to facilitate change, nothing will ever change. Even if you go to the gym and eat the perfect diet, if you think I'm not doing it right, I'm not trying hard enough, you're never ever going to succeed. The other thing that it leads to is increased stress. Did you know that people who engage in frequent negative self-talk tend to be more stressed? This is because their reality is altered to create an experience where they can't reach their goals they've set for themselves. It lowers your ability to see opportunities and a decreased tendency to capitalize on opportunities. So for example, say you got offered a job promotion, you're like, oh, I'm not ready, it's not the right time, they're going to pick someone with more experience. That's going to make you feel like you're not capable. And if you don't feel capable, you're not going to apply. And if you don't apply, then you don't get the job, reinforcing the belief that, oh, it wasn't the right time. The heightened sense of stress comes from both the perception of your thoughts and the changes in your behavior. You don't try to go for things that you want. The other damaging effect is reduced success. One of the most obvious drawbacks, which isn't even obvious, is that self-talk is negative, right? Sounds not simplistic, but did you know that people who speak more positively to themselves are actually more successful? So what they did was they did a study on athletes and they compared 4 types of self-talk: instructional, motivational, positive, and negative. And guess what was the most effective? The positive self-talk was the greatest predictor of success. People didn't need to remind themselves how to do something as much as they needed to tell themselves that they were doing something great and noticing it in themselves as well. I'm telling you, I see this. I see this in the people I work with. It's not that I'm an amazing clinician. It's not that I have the ultimate method. It's that I believe in people and I help them believe in themselves and see the positive in themselves. And that has power. Because when you speak to yourself in a way that's effective and useful, it doesn't have to be positive all the time. It just has to be effective. Then change can really start to happen. And if that wasn't enough to convince you to stop talking negative to yourself, here's some other reasons. Limited thinking. The more you tell yourself you can't do something, the more you believe it, right? There's a saying and it's something along the lines of whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And your brain learns by repetition. So the more you repeat something negative, the more your brain's going to believe it. And then what happens is when you have a belief, your brain then looks for information in your environment to validate that belief. So if you walk around with the belief, no one likes me, you are literally going to pick up on signs in the environment that people don't like you, people looking at you weird, the person not saying hello to you. Whereas if you walk around and say, I'm great, I have such positive energy and vibes, I'm an awesome person, you're going to be like, hey to everyone. And then they're going to reciprocate and you're going to say, wow, it's a great morning. The next reason, perfectionism. You begin to really believe that great isn't as good as perfect and that perfection is actually attainable. In contrast, high achievers tend to do better than perfectionistic counterparts because they're less stressed and happy with a job well done. Yeah, progress over perfection. They don't pick themselves apart. Perfectionism comes at a cost. It's not enjoyable and the process is arduous and debilitating and tiring and exhausting to the point people don't even try because they know how much perfectionism takes it out of them. Feelings of depression, negative self-talk can increase depression, and relationship challenges. Whether the constant self-criticism makes you seem insecure or you're dating someone who has negative self-talk, it really can be a vibe kill. Because if you're insecure, if you're negative about yourself, you're probably going to attract someone who doesn't see your worth and see who you really are. Whereas if you speak in a way that's confident and effective and positive, you're going to attract someone who also sees those qualities in you. Now we know how bad negative self-talk is and why we engage in it. I want you to ask yourself, why do I engage in it? Every time I have a negative thought, why am I thinking this about myself? And then you're going to go into the next phase of this podcast, which is how to combat negative self-talk. Number one, you're going to increase your awareness. So like I said, do a thought audit. The next time you do something, actually just notice your thoughts rather than being in them. I call this the tornado effect. So what happens is you're looking out your window and you can see a tornado in the distance. And I want you to describe it, what it looks like. Whereas what happens is the tornado is your negative thoughts. People are inside the tornado. I'm fat, I'm disgusting, I can't do anything right. Rather than looking at it the distance, oh, I can see in the distance, oh, I'm having the thought that I'm fat, I'm having the thought that I'm ugly. Notice it from a distance, and I want you to replace criticism with curiosity. This is called catching your critic. So you want to catch it. And like we said earlier, you can give it a name. Whoop, there's my critical Kelly trying to tell me I'm not doing strong enough in the gym. Shut up, Kelly, not today. And if anyone's name's Kelly listening to this, my apologies. The next thing you want to do, number 2, is challenge the belief or cross-examine your inner critic. One of the most damaging things is people don't even challenge their beliefs. If they walk into a party and they have a belief, everyone's looking at me because I arrived late, and they have negative thoughts like, oh, she's always late, why did she even come? How do you even know this is true? Do you actually stop and think, is this a thought? Is it a fact? This is going on in your head. Others may not even be aware of what's going on. And then do you know what? You're actually being the judgmental one. You're judging them, judging you, when you don't even know what they're thinking. So it's far better to catch your negative talk, challenge it, and challenge how true it is. Where is the evidence that I'm not smart enough? So going back to this girl's question, where is the evidence you're not smart enough? Do you actually need to be smart enough to do what it is you dream to do? I wasn't. I didn't even get into honors. I didn't even get into masters. And you know what? I knew that I wasn't like a super A+ student, but I didn't care. I'm like, I don't need to be smart enough to be a psychologist. I need to just pass the hurdles and be persistent, and it's going to happen. I didn't think negatively about myself. I never doubted. I knew this is what I wanted to do. And even though I wasn't smart enough, I knew that my persistence would get me there. Okay? So remember, your self-talk is an exaggeration, and calling yourself out on this can really help the damaging influence it has on you. Remember, this should be your mantra. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are not facts. Then people say, yeah, but it is a fact I am fat, I am overweight. Then you need to ask yourself, is this helpful? Is it helpful saying I'm fat, I'm disgusting, I'm overweight? Are those thoughts going to get you to the gym? Are those thoughts going to get you the support you need? Probably not. So it's not about thinking positive. It's about asking yourself, are these thoughts effective to get me to my goal? Think of anyone you look up to. Think of, I don't know, a celebrity, Oprah, whoever. Do you think they wake up and be like, oh gosh, I shouldn't even try to be on TV today. I'm not good enough. Probably. They probably have those thoughts, but they do it anyway. And they notice those thoughts, but they don't let those thoughts get in the way of trying. Okay? Now remember, your thoughts are skewed like everyone else's. They're subject to biases, and it's influential on your mood. So if you wake up and you're tired, you haven't slept enough, it's likely your thoughts are going to be worse. But if you can start to pick this out, you can start to manage it. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to repeat it. Give your inner critic a nickname. Yeah, Critical Kelly, Debbie Downer. So Debbie Downer was a Saturday Night Live character, and she would find the negative in any situation. We all know one. We all know someone like this. Now, if your inner critic has this dubious skill to see the negative in everything, identify it and call it out. Oh, Debbie Downer is back in town doing her thing again because I'm going to the gym. I do this with OCD, even PMDD. That's not me. That's my OCD. My hands aren't dirty. My OCD is having an intrusive moment of thinking that my hands are dirty. Okay? So when you think of your inner critic as an external factor outside yourself, even giving it a funny name, it's not only more easy to realize that you don't have to agree, but it actually creates cognitive distance. It's actually called in ACT therapy cognitive diffusion, because you're diffusing the fusingness that you do with negative thoughts. People fuse with the negative thoughts and they become one. But by giving it a funny name and by externalizing it, we're actually defusing it because it becomes funny. You see how ridiculous some of your critical thoughts can be. Number 3, I want you to analyze, what does believing this do for me? What do I get out of telling myself I'm not smart enough? How does that help me? What does not believing the belief do? If I believe the opposite, if I believed I was smart enough, if I believed I was capable, if I believed I was socially awesome, what impact would that have on my life? Could you imagine all the things you could achieve if you just change that belief? And it really does work. Number 4 is contain your negativity, right? We all have negative moments. We all have down moments, and it's absolutely fine. But accommodate it, validate it, but not for too long. Validate it, but don't accommodate it for too long. So we want to contain the emotional damage that the critical inner voice can cause by just allowing it to criticize certain things in your life or be negative for an hour a day, right? You can have negative Nancy time. Just schedule it at a time, be negative, complain about everything, put yourself down if you really need to, and just limit it. And then after that, no more. If a negative thought comes up, you say, not today. This is called thought stopping. You could just say, nah, we're not engaging in that today. The women in my food freedom, one of them does this and she loves it. As soon as the negative thoughts come in, she's like, nope, we're not doing that today. We're not going down that spiral. Thank you. Okay. Number 5, what thoughts would better serve me in this scenario? So if this particular girl wants to go out and live her dream, what thoughts other than I'm not smart enough would actually help her? Maybe it's something more neutral, such as I don't need to be smart enough. I just need to work really bloody hard. Okay. Or even if I don't get in, I can try again. So it's far easier to change the intensity of your language. Like I said, it doesn't need to be super positive. Like, I'm so smart. I'm the smartest girl in the world. It can literally just be, it's going to be challenging achieving my dreams, and there may be times I don't feel smart enough, but this thought doesn't serve me, and either way, I'm going to keep going. Which brings me to the last point, which is shift your perspective. Sometimes looking at things in the long term makes you realize you're putting too much emphasis. Okay, what's another way to think of this thought? What's another way when you're walking into a party, rather than thinking, oh my gosh, everyone's looking at me, how embarrassing, what's another perspective? I'm just a person walking into a party where everyone else is feeling anxious at. Done. Is this going to matter in 5 years from now? In the billions of people on this earth, do what I think other people think about me, does that really matter? Am I that important that everyone just thinks about me? Probably not. Another way to shift your perspective is, like I said with the cyclone example, imagine you're looking at your thoughts and your problems from the distance and you're analyzing them, you're narrating them. It's almost like you're talking about your thoughts in third person. In reference to this person's question, I would ask her to challenge her thought of I'm not smart enough. Where did it come from? What is she getting from this belief? Is it meeting a need? Is it meeting a need of comfort, security, avoiding failure? Does she actually need to be smart to accomplish the goal? And how smart? What does smartness mean? Does she need to have a certain mark? Does she need to have a certain degree? Are there people doing what she wants to do who are, quote unquote, not as smart? To be honest, smartness is overrated. Smart people are not successful, okay? Successful people who take action despite their negative thoughts are successful and smart. People who don't listen to self-talk are smart. So if you want to be smarter, don't listen to self-talk. Because by not listening to self-talk and doing the thing anyway, you're going to get more result. So remember, what you need to take away from this episode is negative self-talk is going to ruin your life unless you change it. And you change it by noticing it. And then by noticing it, you practice challenging it, you practice new thoughts, and then you practice repeating the new thoughts. This is a part of your brain we need to rewire. It's a skill you need to build, and a course or a program can help you rebuild this skill. This is exactly why I designed a 30-day mindset reset challenge, because I got people to dig deep for 30 days and completely rewire the way they thought. This was something I used to run, but now it's all online. And if you use the code TikTok20 or Insta20, depending if you're from Instagram or TikTok, you'll get a further discount on it. And it's already on sale because I'm too late to change it back. So 30-day mindset reset if you want to actually learn this skill. And it's worthwhile, because unless you change your thoughts, your life will never change. New thoughts, new reality. So in summary, the reason you engage in negative self-talk is because it might be safe for you to not try, to not put yourself out there, because then you don't fail. However, you need to change your perspective on failing. Failing is not bad. Failing is feedback. And unless you change your negative self-talk, your feelings about yourself will never change. And then your feelings control your actions. So if you feel like I'm dumb, I'm stupid, then you're not going to even try. And that means you're never going to get the result you want, because you're not even setting your mindset up to success to give it a go. Thank you so much for submitting this question. I absolutely love answering your questions. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a screenshot and let me know on Instagram. Share it with your family and friends. Share it with someone who has negative self-talk, who needs to hear this. They will appreciate it in the long term. And always leave a rating. I always am so grateful when you do. And I will see you in the next episode. Take good care. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am truly grateful for you being here. If you got something out of today's show, please take a moment to leave a rating or review. To access more resources or support, check out the show notes below. See you next time.